Well, the Northern Irish conflict may be over and the daily violence and killing a thing of the past, but for many families, north and south, who lost loved ones, the pain and the anguish continues. Today, a new legacy bill was introduced into the House of Commons to try to fairly deal with the past. Meanwhile, Operation Denton is a UK investigation into the notorious killers known as the Glenanne Gang, and it's due to publish its findings in the coming weeks. And one of the cases it has looked at is the killing of 38-year-old Brendan Hayes, who was murdered by a bomb placed in Dublin Airport in 1975, where he was working. Here's Colin McMurrow with the story for us.
'Twas in another lifetime.
There's been further condemnation of the Dublin Airport bombings, in which a man was killed.
It happened 50 years ago. It left one man dead and his widow alone to bring up 3 children.
The man killed was Mr. John Francis Hayes, a 38-year-old loader from Fancourt Heights, Balbriggan, County Dublin.
The Loyalist bomb at Dublin Airport has largely been forgotten, but the family's fight for justice continues.
Come in, she said, I'll give ya shelter from the storm.
He was an ordinary family man, loved his wife. He doted on his 3 kids.
Brendan Hayes talking about his late father, John, an ordinary man killed in extraordinary circumstances.
He was born, grew up in Kilkenny, a little town called Coon. He grew up in the old post office down there. He was mad into his hurling and much loved in his community. Had a lot of friends. And then from Kilkenny, he moved over to London for work. And that's where he met my mother. She's from London. And then they moved back to Kilkenny for, I think, a couple of years they were down there. And then moved to Balbriggan from there and bought a house.
After moving to Dublin, John Hayes got a job at the airport.
He worked for Aer Lingus. He was a baggage handler. Enjoyed the colleagues. He had a good crack with them. I was only 3 when he was killed, so I've got no effective memory of him. It's only what my family can tell me, my brother and sister and my mother.
Saturday the 29th of November 1975 was the day life changed forever for the Hayes family.
It was just like a normal day for him. In fact, I think he wasn't actually supposed to be working that day. He volunteered to do a shift, and then, tragically, he'd gone to the toilet, which he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's when the bomb went off.
The autopsy findings indicated John Hayes was killed instantly by the blast.
He was there for about 4 or 5 hours before the body was discovered, because obviously the building had to be evacuated before the police and the bomb people could come back in and search the building. They discovered the body, and obviously from there he was identified.
Later that day, the Hayes family got the knock on the door from Garda Síochána that every family dreads.
Mother said, the police came down with representatives from Aer Lingus and told her the news, and she just found it unbelievable. She just couldn't accept that it actually happened. It was that shocking. She told the people that he can't be dead. I'm making him dinner, and it was only much later that things actually began to sink in.
John Hayes' indiscriminate murder left his widow and children shattered.
It was extremely difficult, considering the fact as well there was no support services offered to her at the time, and there was no follow-up from the garda either. There was no investigation, no visits, no one telling us what was happening with the investigation. It's had a devastating effect on the family. We still feel the effects to this day. It always feels quite odd. Every time you're passing through, coming in or going back out again, you can't help but think about what happened on that day. It's only natural, really, It's created problems for me all my life. It's only recently that I've been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder and recurrent depressive disorder as well. And it's had an effect on my social relationships, on work. It's just affected, I think, every facet of my life.
Brendan is now fighting for justice and trying to find out who is responsible for murdering his father.
It's been forgotten about, it's been buried. I think it's been overshadowed by the Dublin and Monaghan bombings the previous year in many ways, but I'm surprised a bomb at the airport has been forgotten about.
Brendan has questions about the Garda handling of the case.
I've only learnt of the investigation from my dealings with Operation Denton, and they've effectively said that there was no real effective investigation done by the Garda Síochána. The police just didn't seem interested, and the investigation went cold, I think, after about a year. Absolutely no follow-up whatsoever. It's really disappointing. It compounds our trauma.
Operation Denton is an independent British police investigation set up to examine allegations relating to the so-called Glenanne Gang. It was a UVF-affiliated group based in County Armagh and Mid-Ulster, which included serving soldiers and police officers during the 1970s.
Well, Operation Denton, it involved looking at a raft of atrocities committed in the period of the mid-1970s in Mid-Ulster. You're talking up to 120 murders, series of attempted murders, explosions and atrocities committed on an industrial scale.
Families have been briefed about the contents of the Denton report, and Primetime has seen a copy of minutes taken during a briefing with Brendan Hayes.
He was given specific information about perpetrators, about intelligence, about links to other atrocities, and that was the first time that this family were given anything remotely resembling some form of closure.
We were always led to believe it was the UDA, but it's only within the last couple of years of my dealings with Denton, they said no, it was actually the UVF. They identified 5 suspects, but they said there could have been up to 12 people involved in the attack. They've given us the names of 2 people, but they've withheld the name of 3, and they haven't really given us sufficient reason as to why they haven't given us those 3 names.
News of UVF links to the Dublin bomb, revealed in the Irish News last month, are an important step in the Hayes family's fight for justice.
Learning that this in fact was not a UDA-inspired atrocity but was linked to the UVF is significant. It actually points to evidence of links to the wider systemic series of atrocities committed by the Glenanne Gang, and it also opened up the door to exposing links to a raft of other cases. That's significant for the family. They didn't know that. They didn't know anything about that. They thought this was a one-off UDA-linked case, and it was anything but.
The Hayes family are angry at how the Gardaí investigated 1970s bombings.
I think that they were swept under the carpet. I think the authorities down here didn't really want to know, didn't really want to investigate them properly, and they just wanted to bury them, forget about them.
The Gardaí here simply didn't cover themselves in glory at all. And for decades, this family, like so many other families where atrocities were perpetrated in the Republic of Ireland emanating from the north, they were similarly left bereft of any information, and not even, if you like, the courtesy of just a welfare check and to see how families are.
Last week, Primetime put a series of questions to An Garda Síochána in relation to this report. The organisation has not provided a response.
We've waited 50 years now for information that we should have received right from the start. They should have identified these suspects. And I believe the RUC had suspects' names at the time, and they passed them on to the Gardaí, and it seems like nothing was ever done about that. No one was ever arrested, no one was ever questioned. I know it's 50 years ago, but you still, that's no excuse not to have an effective investigation into an atrocity like this.
Operation Denton is due to publish its report within weeks. Primetime understands it will uncover new information about the 1974 Dublin and Monaghan bombings and the airport bomb the following year. Will it find evidence of collusion between loyalist paramilitaries and the British security authorities?
Certain basic policing investigatory steps didn't happen. We say that's evidence that points to collusion, and whilst it isn't collusion in the widest sense of the word of having prior intelligence knowledge that an atrocity is about to be committed, nevertheless there are elements of collusion that took place in the wider sense of the word.
Next month marks 50 years since John Hayes' murder. Half a century that could have been so different for the family he left behind.
You always reflect on how different things would have been if my father had have still been alive. We'd have had a normal family life. We'd have been happy.